My name is Janet Ott. I'm your moderator this evening for the forum, and I'm representing the League of Women Voters of Bellingham and Whatcom County. Founded in 1920, the League is a nonpartisan organization with more than 700 affiliates in all 50 states. Our goals are to encourage informed and active participation in government, increase an understanding of major public policy issues that influence the public policy through education and advocacy. The League never endorses candidates or political parties. Membership is open to all people age 16 and older, and we invite you all to join us. Tonight's forum is being broadcast on BTV and the City of Bellingham YouTube channel. Recordings of this program will be available on the League of Women Voters of Bellingham-Whatcom County website. The forum will be rebroadcast on BTV and on 88.3 KMRE Community Radio through Election Day, August 1st. No portions of this forum may be rebroadcast in part or in full without the written consent of the League of Women Voters. The Linden Tribune, the Salish Current, the Northern Light, and 88.3 KMRE Community Radio are our media partners. Tonight, we're hosting the candidates for Whatcom County Executive. The Whatcom County Executive provides for an accountable and responsive county government by ensuring efficient, effective, and economical administration in accordance with the county charter, the Washington State Constitution, and other applicable federal, state, and local laws, as well as county policy. Duties include supervising all administrative offices and executive departments and appointing members to boards and commissions. Whatcom County executives serve a 4-year term. I would like to now introduce the candidates in alphabetical order. Barry Buchanan, Misty Flowers, and Sukwant Gill are both candidates and who were unable to be with us this evening. But also with us is Dan Purdy, Alicia Rule, and Satpal Sidhu. Here are the rules we'll follow tonight. There will be no formal opening statements by the candidates. The introductory question is tailored to elicit responses consistent with opening statements, and each candidate has 90 seconds to respond. Each candidate will then give a 1-minute closing statement. I will ask candidates to speak in alphabetical order and will alternate the order for the closing statement. The timer displayed on the screen will count down your time, candidates. The timer will be purple when you begin. Then it turns to yellow when there's 15 seconds remaining. And I think we're going to see the yellow in a few seconds. And then when time is up, the timer will turn red. If you continue to speak after the time limit, and I know you won't, we may cut your microphone. So candidates, are there any questions regarding the rules? Okay, if our timer is ready, we can start. So candidate Buchanan, the first question is, if elected, what are the 2 or 3 things you are most committed to working on?
Well, first of all, thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum tonight. We really appreciate it. I think my priorities are, number 1, climate change. And I want to make sure that when the 2025 comprehensive plan update is done, that we follow the guidance of a resolution passed by the council last year, which has several great lenses. It has racial equity, it has economic equity, but it also has a very, very strong lens on climate change. So that's, I want the staff to be able to follow that and come up with an update that has that climate change lens. Secondly is housing. Housing is super important right now. We have a shortage of housing. I want to create a stakeholder process that would look at the potential of putting together a countywide housing levy, such as the Bellingham Home Fund. And I think thirdly is the criminal justice system that I've been working hard on for the last several years. We just passed an ordinance last night to get something on the ballot, and I want to make sure that that gets implemented, and I want to be in the executive seat when it comes time to do that.
Okay, thank you for your response. So, candidate Purdy, your response to question number 1.
Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes.
I'll do my best.
Okay.
I have 4 topics that I'm really interested in, and they form the acronym PACE. The first is public safety, then it's accountability and fiscal responsibility, cost of living, and environmental stewardship. I'm especially interested in public safety from both a support of law enforcement and firefighters, EMS, the Public Works Department, and their infrastructure as well. Under accountability and fiscal responsibility, I'm looking at continuous process improvement. I'm looking at the permitting issues that we're backlogged on. And then, of course, our budgetary needs for a tighter tolerance around government spending. From a cost of living perspective, I'm very interested in attracting new business to Whatcom County. I want to reset the pace there and create new jobs. We have so much opportunity here, and it's a great time to be in Whatcom County. Affordable housing is a giant topic for all of us. And then, of course, we have a shortage of skilled workers and professionals that we really need to work on. In terms of environmental stewardship, we have to work on our flood mitigation, balance our conservation with new rec areas, and really focus on our farms and water rights.
Okay, thank you. So, candidate Rule, your response to question number 1, please.
Thank you so much for having us tonight and giving us the opportunity to talk about really important issues for Whatcom County. Number 1 issue for me is we are in the midst of a deadly fentanyl crisis, and it's impacting everybody in our community. Not only those who are suffering from addiction, but all of the pieces around us, including our business, including our neighborhoods, and including our public safety for our children. Public safety as well. And lastly, it is all intertwined in our social systems, but we have a housing crisis. And when we look at these social crises as systems crises, rather than one problem separate from another problem, I think we can then more boldly come forward with solutions that are going to actually meet the needs of those folks who are suffering most, as well as all of the peripheral impact it's having on our communities and our children and our neighbors and friends.
Okay, thank you. So, candidate Sidhu, your response to question number 1, please. You're muted, Setpal. You're muted.
All right. Thank you for this forum. I have 3 things I want to concentrate on. Of course, there are many other things as well. One is public safety and treatment of mental health, behavioral health. The second one is housing crisis. The third one is water security for the salmon habitat, as well as to preserve 100,000 acres of ag land. So what is different this time about our thing is that we are saying our motto is treatment over punishment. So we are, this levy which council put on the ballot last night will have almost half of the money going towards the programs in addition to what we already have. And public security is safety is also important. On the housing crisis, I think land use policies and our comprehensive plan, making smaller lots, making smaller homes, 800 square feet to 1,200 square feet, that would help. The water security crisis is existential crisis, and I've been working with all the parties. Adjudication is going to start this fall. And our solution is going to be when we sit across the table and work out solution, which is tailor-made for our community and made by our community members. So that's what I will concentrate. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, here is question number 2. Whatcom County Department of Health and Community Services recently reported 1,059 unhoused people. an increase of 27% from the previous year. A third of those unhoused people live outdoors, and in places not intended for human habitation. What specific programs do you support to address the needs of these 1,059 people living in our county? And we're going to start with you, candidate Purdy. Your response, please.
Yes, I'm in support of any program that has outreach, recovery, and restoration. In speaking with the Lighthouse Mission and the executive team there, I learned that it's not just 1,059, but they've had over 2,500 encounters with homeless. They also feel like there's probably another 2,500 people as well who are outside of the city limits of Bellingham, and they're just not counted. Between 2022 and 2023, there was a 33% increase in the number of households that were individuals experiencing homeless. 39% of homeless people are reporting having a mental illness, and 34% of homeless people are reporting that they're suffering from chronic substance abuse problems as well. We need all of those services. We need the mental health services. We need the health services that go along with that. And we need to be able to work with various departments, regardless if they're faith-based or if they're government-based. It's really important that we give our citizens and that we give our community partners and our neighbors the resources that they need in order to get to an outreach, a recovery, and a restorative process.
Hey, thank you. Candidate Rule, your response to question number 2, please.
Thank you. At a state level, as your state representative, I've been working very hard for bold policy and bold funding to address this homelessness crisis. One of the things I'm really proud of is changing some policy to recognize that this is a crisis of housing that certainly has a lot of components. And as a social worker, the only social worker who's running for this office, this is what I've been doing for my life's work since the day I turned 20. So implementing these types of programs and changing systems so that they work together is really where my expertise lies. And I look forward to taking the $1 billion that we secured for the Housing Trust Fund and securing and leveraging those dollars right here at home and implementing a variety of programs in order to meet the variety of needs of homelessness. The face of homelessness varies from a very high growing number of seniors who are becoming homeless, those with complex needs. It's not just one issue, it's many issues at the same time. And homelessness is as individual and diverse as the people who live in our community. We have a large number of families with children who are very quickly losing their homes and living into their cars. So there's nothing more important than getting these folks safely in safe housing and then using the wraparound services and leveraging the funds from the state, federal government with our local funds in order to immediately address this crisis.
Hey, thank you. Okay, candidate Sidhu, your response to question 2, please.
Okay, I will be very specific. I think that these are the things I've been doing and I will continue to do and change. One thing is the land use policies, not only in comprehensive plan, which will impact us for next 10 years or more, but immediately that single family zoning, that we should build 2 duplexes, 4plexes, all that and mixed housing in every neighborhood. Why don't we will allow 400 square feet studios. We had the same lot in a neighborhood, they spread around, and whereas a 3,000 square feet home, we can build 8 or 10 of those and spread our the people all over the town. The other thing is micro homes. That's what I was trying to describe. And tiny homes. Tiny homes is a transitional housing, not permanent housing. We have thought of that as a permanent housing, but it's not good for us to have permanent housing in tiny homes. We need to move them in more permanent houses. It could be 400 to 800 square feet. That's what I'll do. And the other part is that land use policies. They will impact if we set up county-wide policies, which can be adopted by each city. and then it will take a little time. This is not overnight solutions, and this is what we have done in past. And because of COVID and other things, we couldn't make that impact, but we can make it in next 4 years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Buchanan, your response to question 2, please.
Yeah, thank you. Homelessness is a severe problem. Back in 2017, I formed a homeless strategies work group that encompassed all of the jurisdictions. We had representation from the sheriff's office. We had representation from the city of Bellingham that sat on this, and we came up with a number of recommendations. Housing is not a one-size-fits-all solution. It's a continuum, is what we have to strive for. And some of the elements of that continuum are safe parking. We need to have a way for some of these people that are in their RVs to be able to park safely. We need emergency sheltering in the wintertime. And also we have to be looking at the heat. With climate change upon us now, we have a lot of heat. We have smoke in the summer, and we have to protect people. Executive Sidhu mentioned tiny homes. Tiny homes are a great mid solution for this as people are moving through the continuum, and I support those. We also need supportive housing with services that can help people that have behavioral health issues, substance use disorder issues. We need that supportive services. And we also have to partner with all the jurisdictions in the county to make sure that we are all working together to solve this issue.
Okay, thank you. So question number 3. The county executive is the head of the county's health board. If elected, what specific programs or policies would you propose to address the addiction crisis in our county? And we'll start with you, Candidate Rule.
Thank you so much. This is my life's work, and I can't wait to do it in my own neighborhood and community right here at home. There's funds available, and we are looking forward to a lot of things that you can't see yet because they haven't begun to be built, because I fought for funding in the behavioral health realm to bring it back home here. So we have a 23-hour urgent care behavioral health center coming to town to be built. We have a 988 system and a 911 system with a new 911 building coming into town. We have a 30-day inpatient unit coming into town. None of these things have started yet. We have a way station that is underway. We've got multiple programs. I can see that I won't have enough time to tell you about them all, but none of them have really been up and running yet. And we need a social worker who's been running programs like this and making system change for many years to be running these together, so that when a person has a behavioral health crisis or has a behavioral health concern, when and where they need it, there's help available that works well with our public safety system, that works well with our first responders, so that folks get the help that is appropriate care for their need, and that they're not handed off without a plan that's comprehensive and tailored to them. When we start addressing our social safety system in a proactive way with operating systems that work, we are going to see a very clear, quick difference to an end to this suffering. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Candidate Sidhu, your response, please, to question 3.
My response is this is a very bad situation for our communities and for our youth. Addiction. I think the treatment services options need to be increased. This is what I have been able to do. What we did is built the Crisis Stabilization Center and Deacon Center for Hope with 36 beds, 32 beds, 16 for detox and 16 for mental behavioral health. Now we're going to build another 23-hour facility, and Alicia facilitated that $9 million, and we are putting another $5 million on top. The other thing we have been able to do is way station. We dreamed of this project in very early 2020 when I became county executive, and we have been able to put $14 million together in less than 4 years, and we just had a bid, and work is starting next month. So that is a very unique project where Peace Health, Unity Care and Opportunity Council are three partners. We donated a building for this program as a county. That's the vision you have to have, that how you can make that successful. And we leveraged federal money, we leveraged state funding, and we are putting county money into things. I think more programs like that can help this.
Thank you. Candidate Buchanan, your response to question 3, please.
Oh, you're muted.
You're muted.
Again, this is another one of those multifaceted issues. I recently attended the All Hands Opioid Summit at Bellingham High School, as well as a few weeks ago, the Washington State Tribal Opioid Fentanyl Summit out at Silver Reef Casino. And everybody is really digging in to find solutions. And some of the things that I've heard about are a drug testing program. Many communities have, Walla Walla has one that's very successful to test for fentanyl in drugs, so people can feel safe when they have gone down that path. We need to up our game on medically assisted treatment. That's where people can get like the old methadone treatments to be able to get off of their addiction. We have several programs, the GRACE program that tries to help. We intervene on frequent flyers of the emergency medical system. The community paramedic can do well checks and check on people. And I'm looking at, with another council member, we're looking at putting together a potential hub services center that we could put many of our service providers in a same location and offer services for reentry, for addictions services, and for the homeless as well.
Okay, thank you. And Candidate Purdy, your response to question 3.
Muted.
We can't hear you, Dan.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Like the other candidates, I'm learning that this is a very complex issue. There's lots of moving parts. It's all about appropriate funding and making sure that the monies are in the right buckets and making sure that we're spending for the right programs. Supportive services are in high demand, and we need to have well-balanced systems that really help the individual with their mental addiction and their services there. I truly believe in a hand up, but not a hand out. I want to see our services expanded with our mental health and addiction right here in Whatcom County. I know that we've got great services available to us, but we just don't have enough to address the growing concerns within our community. It's very difficult to find professionals. It's very difficult to find some of the programs that are meeting each of the individuals with their multiple needs. What I do know is that we don't have the right professionals always in the right areas. People are presenting with a host of challenges and a host of things that we haven't seen before. Post-COVID, we're having things that resemble PTSD, but they don't necessarily have the same type of treatment. And so I feel that we need to invest more in our community in the mental health and the addiction services.
Okay, thank you. So question number 4. The county's climate goals include reducing the transportation-related greenhouse gas emissions by 45% by the year 2030. What policies would you propose in order to achieve that goal? And we'll start with you, Candidate Sidhu.
Great. I started on this 4 years ago, so this is not new. When I ran in my last campaign, I said I will plant 1 million trees in 5 years. Of course, COVID came and all this, but we do have a nonprofit organization, Whatcom Million Trees Project, and they have already done work about 200,000 new trees. That's just one. As I became county executive, we hired a climate manager. We seated a climate advisory committee. We have created a report. These are the practical things, not ideas. We have created a climate report and an implementation plan we are working on. I think that we intend to start with our buildings and reduce the carbon footprint of our buildings and our transportation, that all the vehicles, we have done an inventory. It takes a long time. You don't have that money that we can just buy a new fleet. As the fleet retire, we will keep doing electrification. And the infrastructure in the county, WTA is putting, and so do we want to put charging stations. They're not just for county vehicles or county, but they're for public. And we are partnering, public-private partnership, to do as much EV structure in our county so that we can reduce our carbon footprint. Thank you.
Thank you. Your response, Candidate Buchanan, please, to question number 4.
Yeah, I would start where Mr. Sadhu left off, and that's EV charging stations. I think that's a real opportunity. There is money from the bipartisan infrastructure bill that's focused on EV charging stations that I think we should be applying for. Public transportation is important. We need to make sure that we make connections along the I-5 corridor and partner with other transportation agencies up and down that I-5 corridor to make sure that we have public transportation that can get people down to Mariners games or down to the airport or wherever they need to go down south. We do have a climate action plan that we need to follow. And as I mentioned before, when in our first question about having the comprehensive plan reflect the best policies we can find and that we can develop in our comprehensive plan that is going to aid in our fight against climate change. So I think it's just super important that transportation is a huge part of this, and we have to take it very seriously.
Okay, thank you. So, Candidate Purdy, your response to question 4, please. Unmute, yeah.
One of my key points is about environmental stewardship. We also have to not put the cart before the horse. We have to be balanced, and this means not cutting off natural gas. We've got to be balanced between our needs as a county for agriculture and industry. I do want to shift to affordability and business, and I want to focus on responsible spending and make the transformation to electric, but we have to do it in a reasonable, measured approach. We have to ensure that our businesses can continue to thrive and grow without hindering them and putting them in an untenable position. I've reviewed some of the new programs coming out of WTA with the buses that they have on the road. Their ridership has actually decreased over the last several years. There are many business owners who have written a letter to the board, and they've expressed concern over lower ridership, but then the additional spending that's coming in the form of people counters at a cost of $850,000. In addition, each electric bus is going to cost well over $950,000. The 2 power stations that were discussed earlier, they're at a total bill of $1.3 million. So these are the things that are coming in the 6-year capital improvement plan, and they have to be closely balanced with our just a reasonable sense within our business community, the needs of the ridership, and how we serve our public.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Rule, your response to question 4, please.
Thank you. I think one of the most important things we can do as we start thinking about the best ways that we can address climate change through transportation is how it's intersecting with our other systems. So one of the things I know for sure is many people right now cannot yet afford electric vehicles. So while I want to very boldly go after that money because it's available right now, we should be going and strategizing and leveraging that federal and state money as much as we can to build that out. We also, at the very same time, need to very quickly move on how we're going to rebuild our public transportation system. We know some state changes that are coming our way. The missing middle bill passed this year, and the legislature was happy to support that, which means we can expect the world is changing in our more dense areas. We're going to see a lot of building. We have to. That's the only way that we're going to be able to house people the way that we need to. So then we're going to run into parking issues. We've got to have a better transportation system. And furthermore, how that intersects with our plans for public safety. Folks need to be able to access day and night a public transportation system that will work for them at any given time, particularly if they are released from what could potentially be the new rehabilitation center. So all of these things work together. We need to look at comprehensive solutions, not as if they're separate buckets. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're ready for question number 5. What specific initiatives or actions would you like to see the county's Racial Equity Commission take to improve racial equity for those living in our county? And we'll start with you, Candidate Buchanan.
Thanks for that question. I worked on the development of that Racial Equity Commission, as well as Executive Sadhu did as well. And I think a lot of the important things that we need to do, we need to look at county policies, county hiring policies, and not only policies in the past, but policies going forward. We need to have that lens of racial equity as we develop policies, whether they be land use, parks and recreation policies. We need to always keep in mind that we have to look at our racial equity. We need the Racial Equity Commission, to really focus on our tribal partners as well, to make sure that their sovereignty is protected, because that is ultra important. They are our partners out in the county, and they do a lot. We do a lot with them on projects to help our environment, to help our fisheries, and a lot of things. So it's just really important that the Racial Equity Commission get up and running and have that lens to both in, like I mentioned, policies and hiring and working with our tribal partners.
Okay, thank you. So Candidate Purdy, your response to question 5, please.
Would you repeat the question, please?
Yes. What specific initiatives or actions would you like to see the county's Racial Equity Commission take to improve racial equity for those living in the county?
We're all Americans, we're all Washingtonians, and we all live in Whatcom County, and we're all in this together. What I would like to see is an even-handed policy for all people that doesn't necessarily focus on skin color, different types of situations where we're pitting each other against one another. I would like to have this conversation cool down a couple of temperatures. It's obviously happening at the national level, and we're better than that in Whatcom County. I don't have any specific initiatives that I would like the committee to put forward. What I would like us to do is to find the things that we have in common and focus on those. I think everybody knows and understands that every time we put in these new policies around systemic racism or racial equity, there's a cost to that. And we are not able to measure it as a county to determine what that cost is. We want to help all people. We don't want to create policies or procedures that lift one over another or one voting block over another. We all want to have equal treatment for all citizens. And so I would like to see less in this area and not more.
Okay, thank you. So Candidate Rule, your response to question 5, please.
Thank you. I'm just really excited about the opportunities in front of us, because I think that there is plenty of room to grow here. I grew up right here in Whatcom County, and I left and went to University of Washington, and back in the 90s, before it was cool, I was one of the only white people who decided to do American ethnic studies for my major. And so I have a degree in that, and I've been working in the social work world for decades now, using a racial equity lens on really all decision making. And what that means to me is looking how it impacts everybody differently, that we are not the same, that we can't actually claim to all have the same opportunity, because it's just frankly not true. We have to look at where the systematic bias is, and then look to leverage corrections to that. And I think that there's lots of room to do that. We haven't worked as boldly as we could in our community on that issue, and I hope to do that. It really has to come from leadership out. And so I think part of this is changing culture, but we also can look to see things like hiring practices. There's ways to do this where we can do outreach and expand the pool and then still choose the very best candidate. It is not, it is additive. And we know this. We can see this looking at successful businesses. We can see that this is not something that is going to put us back. It puts us forward. And inclusion actually helps better us. It could help us better our business community. It could help better the world and prepare our children for the world that they're about to live in. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Sidhu, your response, please, to question 5. You're muted. Unmute yourself, Setpal.
This is very personal. I have lived in this community for 35 years and 10 years in Canada. I have the lived experience of being a minority and how I could bring my education from India and get it accepted here in over these years. I'm the first person who got elected, first immigrant colored person to council, and then as county executive. But that's not what it is, what I have done about it and what I'm going to do about it and what Racial Equity Commission should do. The first is that we funded, county and city funded Racial Equity Commission formation, and now we have funded it for next 3 years with $200,000 each year to make it successful. And I think the first thing they need to look at is inclusion and belonging. We need to make every citizen, they belong to this place and they are included in everything. The task is huge for Racial Equity Commission. If they can start with these 2 premises and assure our citizens that they are part of our community, they are included, and our policies are inclusive, I think that is a big step, a first step. It will take years. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, question number 6. How would you approach the competing goals of protecting our ag land base in Whatcom County and providing non-agricultural or residential development in these rural areas? Explain your position and provide any specific policies that you personally would advance. And we'll start with you, Candidate Purdy.
So as Whatcom County's population grows, both urban and rural, we need to have a proper balance between growth and agriculture. We need to create affordable housing options for families without taking away from ag land. We have over 100,000 acres of ag land, of which 29,000 are berries. And as 90%, 80 to 90% of the frozen berries for the United States, it's really important that we preserve that legacy and that culture for our farmers. We just need to make sure that we take the existing growth areas that we've already agreed will be a part of those zones, and we build in those areas without taking or detracting from the farmlands. I think it's really important that we also talk to the permitting issue, which is backlogged. We had over 1,600 permits last year alone, and we're not doing a very good job of getting these through for our real estate developers, our average citizens who are just trying to build on their own property. And we have to put that through some type of continuous improvement event so that we're getting these permits done faster, and then we're not cutting ourselves unnecessarily as we're trying to grow into the areas that we've already established.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Rule, your response to question 6, please.
Well, I agree. We do need to preserve those farmlands. I just brought another case of raspberries home. If you haven't had them lately, now's the time. Not only, though, are we providing to the rest of the world, we are providing right here at home. And what that does is increases our own food security. We see the supply chain issues issues that are plaguing us pretty consistently. And we see the just cost of food rising to an unsustainable level for families. And part of what we need to do is continue to work toward preserving those farmlands. Meanwhile, I think a lot of the policies that I've already supported on the housing front, including the missing middle, including even the transit-oriented development that didn't yet pass, can be used here in a way to build the housing that we need to build up in the right places. And so that has to happen, and it has to happen quickly. But part of what we do when we increase options for housing is we then in turn protect those farmlands that are so dear to us. They're an economic driver. They're a heritage for industry for our community. I mean, my grandparents were farmers, and I know many of our neighbors were as well. And it's important to us today. We don't want to be dependent on other countries or other states for our own food supply. If we have an emergency, we want to be safe with our food right here, and we need it to be affordable. And we do that by supporting our local farmers and ensuring that those lands are protected. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Sadhu, your response, please, to
Yeah.
question number 6.
I think the preserving ag land doesn't mean just preserving land. It means that we have to make farming sustainable and profitable so that it can be passed on from one generation to the other. I think the question was about water. Water is not competing between ag land and human habitat, means development. Humans consume very little part of our total water consumption in Whatcom County. Bellingham has rights for 1 million citizens in Bellingham, that much water rights they have. So issue is, how do you balance the salmon habitat versus ag habitat or ag needs? Because water shortage happens 4 or 5 months of the year at the same time when the fish needs water, and at the same time humans need water, at the same time farmers need water. And at that, I've spent 4 years on this already, and I think that we have very practical solutions, and these solutions are at very beginning stage. I don't want to be talking loosely about these, but I would rather have the stakeholders sit across table and discuss that. These are solutions. We do not have water deficit. We have trust deficit. Once we start trusting each other, water is there. We have enough water. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Buchanan, your response, please, to question number 6.
Well, I certainly agree that we have to make sure that farming is viable and people can make a living at it and pass it down to their families. That's what my family did. My great grandparents had a dairy farm out on the Lawrence Road, and that's where my grandparents grew up and my mother grew up. But there's ways we can do that. We can when we're doing our land capacity analysis, we really need to look at the urban growth areas and make sure that we are bringing those in to the cities, and the cities are annexing those and making use of that for density and housing. We have to limit sprawl, and some of the ways we can do that is we can have incentives for urban housing and urban development. We can look at impact fees now in the rural area. We haven't been able to do that in the past because we were not compliant with the Growth Management Act. What impact fees are is fees that help development pay for the parks and the schools and the transportation that's involved in what those impacts of their development are in those areas. What that can do is level the playing field between rural and urban housing costs. It can help drive it can get that balance in so that people can afford to move into Bellingham rather than with the housing costs rising because of impact fees. So it's just a way to balance that out and make it more equitable.
Okay, thank you. So question number 7. Tell us what you know about the current proposal for a new jail and what you support or object to about that proposal. And we'll start with you, Candidate Purdy.
I am pro-jail, and the question here is about trust. The latest proposal is for $137 million out in Ferndale, and County Council will soon vote to prove that on how it's going to appear on the ballot. It's all going to be decided prior to my election. And my understanding is that the levies from previous years were used in other areas. So I'll be focusing on relationships as it pertains to the jail. I'll be working with all of the key players so that we're accountable to the public at all times. My office is responsible for accountable spending. So I'll ensure that we're spending in the right areas and properly using earmarked funds. Public transparency is key because I work for the people and I run a tight ship, and I'll inform the public of our process through of our progress through dashboards and performance metrics. I'll also propose contracts to be voted by county council, and those who put tax dollars to get the job done, to maximize the job dollar or the tax dollar. I feel that after taking the jail tour and talking with the people on the front line, that there are so many things that we can do better. A complete redesign of the jail in more of a modular format is necessary. Both our incarcerated population and our frontline workers there have inadequate sunlight, food, access to services, and there's safety and security issues.
Hey, thank you. Candidate Rule, your response to question 7, please.
Yes, I am really looking forward to making progress, much needed progress on having a rehabilitation center that is going to work to keep our community safe. It is important to me that we have a good, again, system that is public safety, behavioral health, addiction medicine, all of that together working in systems that work for people. And one of the pieces to that system is public safety. And it's very necessary that we have a facility that can help rehabilitate people and keep the public safe. It's overdue, and it needs to be a humane facility that's really different than what we have now. I personally have worked with people side by side as they've exited a jail facility and prison facilities and gone into the community to restart their life. I see the challenges that they have ahead of them. And I think part of what we need to do is ensure that we are using evidence-based approaches to make these systems work together, so that whether it's on the front end or the back end, or receiving behavioral health care and proper addiction services in the jail when they're necessary, all of those things need to happen and would be improvements. We are far behind others, and that's just not the values that we share as Whatcom County citizens. So I very much support moving forward with a better system than we have now, and we certainly need the ability to build that. It's really important to me too that we make sure that we are accountable to our taxpayers for this facility. Thank you.
Okay, candidate Sadhu, your response to question 7, please.
I think I have lived through 2015, 17, along with Council Member Buchanan, and now we are in 2023. I have a whole lot of background about this. Well, let me start with what I don't like. What I don't like is we don't have enough resources. I wish we had more resources. What I like about it, this is the best compromise in a long time between different ideas and different proponents. We are split 50-50 onto the capital side and operational side, and to the treatment side and community programs, everything. It has never happened before. It was not even proposed before. We worked very, very hard to get where we are. It is perfect? No, it's not perfect. Is it workable? It's very much workable. Can it get improved? Of course, it can get better and better, because there are more resources we can get from the state and federal on the program side. On the capital side, we have no other money, but we have to come up with county money. And that's what we have been able to do. And small cities need a shout out that they are giving $50 million of their money for this project on the capital side up front. So I really admire, that's what I like about it, compromise. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Buchanan, your response to question 7, please.
Well, I, along with Mr. Sadhu, have been at this for a while, but the last 5 years in really earnest. And we started out with a listening tour that went all around the county to ask citizens why they didn't like the first two proposals, one in 15 and one in 2017. Then we took that and we created a resolution that was the best principles for a corrections facility and how to design it and how to build it, what it needed as far as services go. What I really like about it was the process in which we got here. And by the way, that ordinance was approved last night. It is headed to the ballot. So it was a very open public process. So like I mentioned, the listening tours, then we had the stakeholder advisory committee where we had 39 people that got together and they looked at the criminal justice system in a holistic way to look how important the gaps that we have in social services, in behavioral health, and substance use treatment. We put together a gap analysis, and the recommendations that came out of that went into the implementation plan. The implementation plan calls out the projects that are going to help fill out that holistic criminal justice system that the stakeholder advisory committee put forward in their needs assessment. So what I don't like is exactly what Mr. Sadhu said. We don't have enough. We just don't have enough services. We don't have enough to do exactly what we want. But I do like what the compromise we have.
Okay, thank you. Okay, question number 8. Do you think the county should or should not be investing in supportive housing for the mentally ill and the addicted, and why? And we'll start with you, candidate Rule.
Absolutely, we must. We have an obligation to our neighbors and to our community. It doesn't take anything except for looking outside our doors in every corner of our community to see that we have people with comprehensive behavioral health needs out on our streets, literally living in cardboard boxes, in the woods, and in every alleyway. This is not normal. We should not be used to it. It should not be acceptable to us, and we must invest and commit to fixing this problem. It is not fair or humane to the people who are suffering, and it is not fair or humane to those around them who are trying to enjoy the community. These are people's sisters, brothers, sons, and daughters, and they deserve much better than this. We know what to do. We have plenty of evidence and expertise to know that we can put in programs that are wraparound programs. There's state money available that we could rapidly and strategically leverage, as well as federal money. So we need to be doing this as really our number one priority. It's incredibly important that we look after our most vulnerable, because at the end of the day, we are all connected. And when the least of us suffers, we all suffer. So I am committed to doing this and look forward to having the opportunity to lead on this.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Sadhu, your response to question 8, please.
Yes, can you read the question again, please?
Sure. Do you think the county should or should not be investing in supportive housing for the mentally ill and the addicted, and why?
So this is exactly the key is addicted people and mentally not stable people. Of course, we need to support them. Of course, we need to provide wraparound services and everything for them. But when we say equate that to every homeless person, it's not really true. There is a population within that population which we need to identify and help with them. The other thing is we should look at the housing needs in our county. We need 5,000 homes every year to get over housing crisis. If that half of that housing is affordable housing, low income housing, that will be 2,500 units. Yeah, I'm giving you a practical situation here. So to do that, the monies we have, if all the federal money, state money, county money, 1506 money, all the monies we have together, best we can do is 300 to 500 units. We can support, we can't build a 500 units, we can support 500 units. So we should be practical about it. We should be practical. We should give the promises which we can keep. And I am supporting, I have done that. We have built 350 homes the last year, and I'll continue to do that. But I cannot build 5,000 homes.
Okay, thank you. So candidate Purdy, your response to question 8, please. I'm
I am all-
sorry. It's candidate Buchanan's turn to answer question 8. I'm sorry, I jumped ahead.
Okay, yes, I do believe the county should invest in supportive housing with wraparound services. It's critical. It's hard work. I can give you an example of 22 North. We had a lot of issues with 22 North when it first started up. We had a good example is one of the neighbors, a residential man that lived across the street, was constantly complaining about drug use, about people in doorways, people harassing people. It was really a mess. But we just received a letter Monday from that same person talking about how much it's improved at 22 North, and it should be used as a model for supportive housing. And so I really want to follow up on that conversation with him and find out what he's seeing. And I know they've done a lot with reaching out to the neighbors. They've had stakeholder meetings with all the neighbors and businesses around to try to solve a lot of the problems that they had. But we had a report yesterday from the Opportunity Council on the 22 North, which is supportive housing, and they have made a lot of progress. And I'm really happy to hear that, because the supportive housing model is super important to getting us through this addiction and some of the homeless issues we have.
Okay, thank you. Okay, candidate Purdy, it's your turn.
Thank you, Janet. We shouldn't be investing funds into programs because they sound good, but because they are effective in restoring people's lives. Absolutely, government plays a role in providing services and housing homeless services. But there needs to also be a mental health and an addiction service program so that we can address these really true crises. We need to ask ourselves the question, are we addressing mental health and addiction, or are we addressing homelessness as a whole? With necessary intervention, we can help people get back on their feet again, and we can give them that hand up that I mentioned earlier, and not necessarily just a handout all the time. We should be investing as government with the right partners and programs to assist people in getting off the street and turning over a new leaf. There has to be more to it than just housing. So I'm in support, again, of any program that has outreach, recovery, and restoration. In speaking with the White House mission, I asked the executive director, solve homelessness for me. What does that look like? His response was, I need 2 shelters. The one shelter that's presently being constructed is $25 million. It'll have numerous beds and numerous floors, but it's temporary. It helps people to come in and, with law enforcement, help them to move on to a more restorative process.
Okay, thank you. So it is now time for question number 9, and this is the last question. So, considering that it may be years before a new jail is built, how would you respond to citizens who perceive a rise of crime like burglaries, shoplifting, and the apparent lack of consequences for these crimes currently? So we'll start with you, candidate Buchanan.
So that's a tough situation because of our lack of capacity in the jail. We don't have accountability for some of those burglary crimes. We just don't have a way to do that. We were looking at trying to get some extra capacity by literally renting some space down in Snohomish, but that fell through. But I think we should continue to look for options, because we are going to need some sort of a bridge to get from here to there before we build a new jail. We are not going to see reductions that are going to be favorable to us using this old jail to get us through. So we need to have something, an interim bridge that gets us there. I think looking at other facilities, or looking at maybe even if it's something temporary out at the property that we're going to end up building the new facility, we have to look and be creative. That's the only way we're going to solve this. But we have a problem between now and the time we can construct a jail, that we have to have space to hold people accountable.
Okay, thank you. So candidate Purdy, what is your response, please, to question number 9?
We need to work in conjunction with various departments to better support the community. We need to properly fund and support law enforcement, our firefighters, our EMS personnel. We need to take a look at this public safety as a multifaceted approach. We require services throughout the entire county, and we got to support these unincorporated areas that are still underserved. I mean, everyone wants a safe neighborhood. We all want to fund the right programs with the right partners as a community so that we care for those in need and in crisis. I want to see beautiful parks for my children and yours without others polluting their play areas or taking over taxpayer-funded rec areas. Most important, I think we really need to lower the recidivism rate for those who have been incarcerated. There's a higher probability that those with addiction issues will reoffend. So if we can get them back on track with the right substance abuse and mental health services, I feel that as a community, we can bolster and strengthen our programming.
Okay, thank you. And candidate Rule, your response to question 9, please.
Yes, we are in a public safety crisis, and we need to address it right away. I am very concerned about our downtown in Bellingham. I have a mental health practice there, and I have staff that I care very much about, and they don't feel safe taking a walk around in the middle of the day. A community that does not have a downtown that thrives really is in trouble. It should be the heartbeat of our community, and we're seeing right now it is essentially empty. The businesses are struggling, they're leaving. There are safety issues left and right. Many people don't feel comfortable going into our downtown. And it's not just our downtown, it's our outer communities as well. We recently had a very violent incident out in Custer, which is near where I live, and many of the county areas as well. We must look for better solutions to hiring law enforcement. And we must do a better job of supporting our other first responders, like the firefighters and EMS systems. They're overloaded, they're tired, and they're not getting enough support. We need to hire quickly, we need to hire wisely, and it needs to be a priority because it's not a perceived public safety issue, it is a public safety issue. We don't have capacity in our jail. We must look for that solution in an alternative way, but we also, in other areas, but we also need to make sure that we are addressing our violent crime and our retail theft issue that consistently and persistently is a real problem for public safety, even going into a regular store like a grocery store or department store. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Sidhu, your response to question 9, please.
Yes, I think that the very basis of a civil and just society is that there must be consequences for anybody's actions. If the actions are against the society's norms, we must have consequences. And right now we are in a position not able to hold that principle. But what we have been able to do is that it will take 5 years for the new deal, if it passes, to build. What do we do meantime? What we have done, let me tell you practical things what we have done. We invested $6 million into the criminal justice system to clear the backlog. It's not enough. Like I said, we don't have enough resources, but that's something we need to work on. And we maybe need one more superior judge in Whatcom County and pay for that. The LEAD, the GRACE program, the alternate response team, those are the solutions. Electronic home monitoring, and reduce the jail people going to jail, and have alternate ways to do that. We need a little more resources. There are solutions. And we have been doing best we could, but need more resources to do that work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I've been informed that we have time for one more question. So question number 10. What ideas do you have for clean economic development at the Cherry Point? So we'll start with you, Candidate Buchanan.
I think for me, I would look at Cherry Point as an opportunity for a clean energy transition as we transition out of the fossil fuel world and into alternative energy. I think it's a good spot for that. It's got the correct zoning. So I would really look at trying to get alternative energy companies out there. Past that, I don't know really what I'm not a big fan of development at Cherry Point. I think there's a lot of good natural things out there that people love that we should try to retain, but we do need to use it for some industrial means. And I think, like I said, alternative energy, green jobs out there would be a real plus for our county.
Okay, thank you. So candidate Purdy, your response, please, to question number 10.
So the Cherry Point is comprised of many different industries, not just one or two refineries. And each of them are highly regulated already, and they provide a massive amount of benefit to our communities. I started at Cherry Point when I came and worked for BP when I was promoted to one of their facilities there. They continue to be good stewards for us. It's important to prioritize good jobs while we make a responsible shift to cleaner energy. We know that companies like BP are making these clean shifts already, and they're the leaders in their industry. By way of example, when I met with them a couple of weeks ago, I was learning more about their shift to a blended fuel for their Jet A products. So they're going to be using tallow and a host of organics blended with jet, and that'll be a lighter fuel, and it's something in which it helps them to bring maybe $1 to $1.5 billion back to this area. They're only one of 5 sites globally that would allow them to do that from the BP portfolio. Phillips 66, same way. But if you were to take these industries out, think of the ripple effect that would happen for all of our downstream services businesses. It would be a much different climate. We need to be investing and supporting these industries, better permitting, faster permitting for them, and making them working with them as good partners with government.
Okay, thank you. So candidate, let's see who's next here. Candidate Rule, your response to question 10, please.
I am so excited about the opportunities that we have at Cherry Point. We can work, this is about relationships, and we can work in relationship with one another, including those leaders that are already out there and are anxious and chomping at the bit for the next new green energy opportunity. They're looking to do that. It's what's new, it's what's profitable. So I think that we need to work with them in partnership with our tribes and with our unions. We've already lost the jobs at Intelco, and this has been such a big hit on our community. Those good union jobs are the ones that are able to, pay for a lifestyle that allows for people to have a vacation and allows them to have, proper working conditions and hours. We can use those partnerships to leverage better jobs to be able to live in this beautiful place for, all of those housing things that we're talking about that are so difficult. Good wages really help, and union jobs do that. And I think we really have an opportunity to overlay our goals in reducing climate impacts with looking at practical, affordable ways to move forward together with these good union jobs. So I already know that this is going to be an opportunity for us, and I'm really excited to look for sophisticated solutions to our shared challenges. We are all in this together, and I believe that when we work together on solutions, we can do actually better than when we have now. And I really do hope that we can get some of those good union jobs back here. It's really important. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Sidhu, your response, please, to question 10.
I think we all talk about Cherry Point. Let me start with that. Cherry Point is a ecologically sensitive coastal area. Coalport is just 10 years ago. It's not too long ago that I would like to see that Lamination take a lead on the Cherry Point development. Let them present a white paper or some kind of plan, what they see as the stewards of this grounds, how they see the future of Cherry Point. But we don't have to concentrate on Cherry Point. There are a lot of other areas in Whatcom County which we can zone industrial, GMA, and all these things. Too much to talk about, but I think that we have opportunities. The other part is the industry footprints are much smaller. Now you can have a 25,000 square feet building and build buses, electric buses in 25,000 square feet. You don't need 500 acres or 200 acres to build a car company or jobs. So we do need new jobs, new technologies, and we've been talking about hydrogen. I think we need family-based jobs, clean tech jobs, but I would say that we should include tribal input into our overall industrial development planning and small cities. Linden has done an excellent job. We should follow Linden, how they have brought jobs. And I am already doing that. I work with Scott on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it's now time for your closing statements, which will be 1 minute in length. So candidate Sidhu, we'll start with you. Your closing statement, please.
All right. Thank you very much for this forum. And since 2020, when I became county executive, I have managed challenging global pandemic, childcare crisis, low-income housing crisis, fentanyl crisis, devastating floods, all these things during my term. But I held a steady hand on the administration and ran this thing. Never, ever in the last 3.5 years ever said county executive doesn't know what to do or county executive is wavering. He was here this week and he's there this week. That shows leadership. That shows decisiveness. And I have proven that I can work with all 7 mayors. It didn't matter what party they belong to. I did not use my emergency powers because all my decisions were 7-0 with these all mayors. So I can bring people together. I believe in that what binds us together is much stronger than what divides us. And that's how I have worked and I'll continue to work.
Thank you. Candidate Rule, your closing statement, please.
Thank you. I think you can see tonight that we have a lot in common and that we have some good candidates here, but I am the only candidate in this moment that's led as a social worker. And I've led with political courage to do things that are sometimes really difficult because it's right for people. And I'll continue to do that. I think we need to continue to work with putting people first and to solve more boldly the problems that are in front of us. We all have been working in government on some of these big challenges. We've all lived through a global pandemic and we've all lived with the same sort of challenges ahead of us. But truly, I believe that I have showed the bold leadership that we need at a county level. And I come in with the professional experience to be able to roll out programs that work together and change systems when we need them most. I would just ask, is it working? Because if the same old is working, then continue on. But I think we need more, and I think we can do better for the people of Whatcom County. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Purdy, your closing statement, please.
Over 230,000 people call Whatcom County home on a full-time or a part-time basis. The sheriff's office is dedicated to protecting the lives, property, and rights of all of our residents and our visitors. They're charged with preserving, honoring, and defending both the U.S. Constitution and the Washington State Constitution, as am I. Over the past few years, however, law enforcement's ability to prevent crime and apprehend criminals was severely impaired. Our current jail is untenable for corrections staff and the incarcerated population alike, who present with serious and dangerous forms of mental illness. The Emergency Management Division remains understaffed and underfunded, even after historic floods and a global pandemic ravaged our communities. Our medical services programs are undersized, and we're just simply not prepared for the next catastrophe. Under my leadership, I will reposition Whatcom County as a category leader in public safety. We will never tolerate poor government, bad decisions, or a lack of personal accountability.
Okay, thank you. And finally, candidate Buchanan, your closing statement, please.
Yeah, again, thank you so much for hosting this forum tonight. I'm running for county executive because I want to bring my extensive leadership experience to the executive's office, whether it be my time as a U.S. Navy supervisor or a lead engineer at Lockheed working on programs like the Hubble telescope, the Trident submarine program, or being an elected official for now 14 years. I've been elected 5 times as chair of the Whatcom County Council, which is the position I currently hold. And I've just been fortunate to always be able to excel and be promoted up into leadership positions. And I want to bring that to the, like I said, to the county executive's office. I love working collaboratively with the public. That's my jam. I love the public. I think that they provide us with the answers we need. We just need to be bold and act those things. But working together, we can do anything. And thank you.
Thank you. So on behalf of the League of Women Voters, I want to thank all the candidates for being here tonight. And I especially want to thank all of you for caring so much about this wonderful community we live in, that you're willing to commit to running for public office. So voters, you can find more information about the candidates online at vote411.org and in your pamphlet. Make sure you fill out your ballot in time. They will be mailed on July 12th, and it must be postmarked or in a ballot drop box before 8 p.m. on August 1st. So August 1st is your deadline. So please remember to sign it. And if you're mailing by the Postal Service, please do it early. Thank you and good night.
Good night.